Alrighty. Pacquiao Bradley coming up on Saturday night. And what is a big fight if you don't talk to Bob Arum from Top Rank? Bob, how are you?
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be on.
I've seen you before at many of these fights. It's always an honor to see you. How exciting is this fight for you, and do you expect it to be the last we see of Manny Pacquiao, who's been so good for Top Rank over the years?
I think it may very well be Manny's last fight. Not advertising it as that because, fighters change their mind. But I think with Manny, we've reached the end of the road. I think he has a great political career. And I don't want to take the chance that Manny continues fighting, might get hurt, might affect his life after boxing. I think it's time at his age that he hangs it up after this fight. And I hope and I know that he'll give a great performance on Saturday night, as will Tim Bradley.
Now, speaking of age, you're 84. You've been doing this for a little while now.
I don't take punches.
You don't take punches. How good do you feel? Is this something you're doing till you can't do it anymore?
Why wouldn't I? I mean, this is fun. People would love to do this. It isn't that I'm suffering, right?
No, you're doing great. You look fine to me.
Right? The weather is good. I'm not out in the rain. I'm happy to do it. I love to travel. I travel all over doing fights. I'm going to do one in the Philippines April 23rd. And I'm looking forward to coming back to New York to do a boxing show in Madison Square Garden the night before the Puerto Rican parade with Felix Verdeo and also a kid who I think is the best fighter in the world, Vasily Lomachenko, the Ukrainian boy who won 2 Olympic gold medals and was the best amateur of all time. He's going to, I think, move up to 130 and fight for the junior lightweight championship. So I'm very pumped up, and I love these kids. There was an undercard show. We did a press conference for the No Trump undercard. By the way, New Yorkers, make sure you vote right and you don't vote for this guy because he is very, very dangerous. That all these Hispanic kids know that. They're really good kids. They make a great presentation, and they're all alarmed of this crazy idea of deporting 11.5 million Mexicans from this country, and they are united with me in stopping Mr. Trump.
So are you excited about whoever the Democratic nominee will be, or are you firmly in one place?
Well, I love Hillary. I think I don't want to talk politics. I mean, there's nothing wrong with Sanders, except what he's promising is preposterous.
You just don't think it's possible to do what he says.
And I respect people's political views. So when you look at the Republicans, anyone would be better than Donald Trump. But I think Kasich would be a very good president.
Kasich's a very good would have been a very good choice for the Republicans. Maybe the problem is that people like you and I think he's too good a choice, and that's why he's not their choice. How long does your relationship go back with Donald Trump? It has to go back a long way.
A long, long way when he owned the casinos in Atlantic City.
And you guys must have made. I'm sure you did some work together many times at Boardwalk Hall.
When he swindled Dan Duva and myself out of $2.5 million in the Holyfield Foreman fight. Kevin Aioli wrote it up. I mean, I don't have to go into detail about it, but he's a bad guy. Not only because he swindled me, but because he's just a bad guy, and what he's saying and now and the hate that he's preaching is very dangerous for this country.
Do you? When was the last time you lived in New York?
I moved from New York in 1986, but my children reside in New York, so I go back there a lot.
And you're from Crown Heights originally, Brooklyn?
Yeah, Brooklyn, Erasmus Hall High School.
And how do you miss it? A lot of people. Are you? And also, I know you live here a lot, but are you in Los Angeles a lot too?
I have a home in Los Angeles as well.
So New Yorkers always move to L.A. A lot of New Yorkers then love to complain about L.A., but then they complain about it for the next 60 years because they never leave. They always talk about what they miss in New York.
Let me tell you something. I love New York, and I love being in New York. But for me, when I came out west to Las Vegas in 1980, 87, 86, 86. And I got up in the morning and saw the mountains. And then when I built a house in L.A., and I get up every morning and the sun is shining pretty much and the weather is great. I mean, anybody who would want to come back east, whether it's New York or any place else, to live, got to be out of their mind. Let me tell you the truth. Let me tell you the truth. I love to go to New York. I love to go to shows in New York. I visit my kids in New York. The restaurants are great in New York. But give me a home where the buffalo roam.
I'm not mad at you. In your amazing career that you've had, are there any fighters that stand out there at the top of the list that you'd wish you'd gotten to work with and never did?
Pretty well. I think Felix Trinidad, although I promoted the De La Hoya Trinidad fight, but I didn't promote Trinidad, and I would have loved to have promoted him. But I pretty much, everybody else I promoted pretty much, I think. I mean, there may be some Riddick Bowe I didn't promote, but, that's okay. I liked Riddick, but I didn't get to promote him.
How's your relationship with Tyson?
Good. Tyson, I promoted about 6 fights for Tyson early in his career, and he was a little difficult, And
well, at that time, I'm sure.
Yeah, a little crazy. So I was happy to pass him along to somebody else. It wasn't King at the time.
Did you end up feeling bad, though, about when you watched how things transpired for him with the King situation? Did you feel for him at all, or was it just sort of the way it was supposed to be?
Out of sight, out of mind, really. That's the truth. I wasn't responsible. You
got enough fighters to worry about.
And I didn't really ever. You never know the real story. You never know what the real facts are. You read about it, you see it on television, but is what's happening really what's happening? Is there a backstory? So I don't really rush to judgment on these things.
You've had your own personal tragedies in life,
yeah.
And do you use the business as a way to kind of pour your life into when you're dealing with those things?
Absolutely. I mean, you don't pour your life in. But when my son was died in a mountain climbing accident, I had started the promotion of Manny's fight with Margarito, and obviously that was interrupted. But after a period of time, I came back to the promotion because otherwise you eat yourself alive. If you don't do something that you love, and you don't ever get your mind off it, but at least you get diverted into something else, you tear yourself apart.
Well, that was 2010, right?
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people who would think, and I've my wife lost her brother, so I've seen in 2011. So I've seen parents grieve before, and people who have never been through it think, understandably, they think, well, how could you ever even push on at all? But it's always incredibly difficult, but it certainly gives you a much better chance to do it when you have such a vibrant career to be able to at least spend time on.
Right, if I didn't do it, I would have torn myself apart, like a lot of parents do. Particularly, it's the worst thing that happens to a parent, the worst thing is the death of a child, because that's not the way life should be. It should be the child mourning the parent, not the parent mourning the child.
So on a more positive, upbeat note, this weekend here in Vegas, Pacquiao Bradley HBO pay-per-view Saturday night. Do you expect the crowd to be any different for Manny than it has been in the past because of the homophobic comments? And his persona in the U.S. has changed a bit. There's no question about it, at least in my circles in New York. Do you expect it to feel any different in the arena, or do you think he'll be as beloved as always?
It won't be different in the arena, I don't feel. The perception, you're absolutely correct, he's taken a big hit, and rightly so, for what he said. And you don't want to demean other people, particularly people in the gay and lesbian community who contribute so much to life in this country and life in the world. And I mean, it's one thing to say that your religious belief makes you against same-sex marriage. I mean, that if he had left it at that, okay, wouldn't have been great, but okay. but then with the analogy and the animals and so forth,
Doubling down. He doubled down on it.
double down on it. Yeah, and what he said was stupid. It's not only bad because he demeaned people, but just plain ordinary stupid. You know, so it's hurt the promotion tremendously, tremendously. I mean, we've had, for example, Jimmy Kimmel, who's one of the nicest, greatest guys. Manny always goes on Jimmy Kimmel prior to a fight, and the Disney, which owns ABC, told Jimmy Kimmel that he was not to have Manny Pacquiao on the show. Now, that's bad for the promotion, and it's really bad for a relationship that has blossomed between the two of them. So I really, it's been a bad patch for me. And that it's the last damn thing I needed was to deal with this homophobic remarks that Pacquiao made. And I'm not going to whitewash it. They're just bad remarks, and he ought to be ashamed of himself for saying it.
Bob, I appreciate your honesty. I understand the same feelings. I feel the same way, and I've loved his career. I've loved watching your career. It's an honor whenever I get to see you here. Jewish guy myself in the industry, seeing a kid from Brooklyn who did pretty good for himself. So, Bob Arum, excited to see the fight this Saturday.
Thank you, but I got to say one important thing.
Please do.
To my friends and colleagues in New York, vote for Hillary in 2 weeks.
Absolutely. Bob Arum, you heard it. Thank you so much.